All right, hello everyone, Aaron here. Welcome to KPC Underground. This is the podcast we do from underneath the stage here at Kirkland Performance Center, and I'm very excited to be joined by Jake Shimabukuro. At this point, a local favorite, absolutely, and been here many times before. Thank you so much for being here and for sitting down with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it, being under the stage like this.
It's
You can
fun.
hear them setting up, actually.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And doing a sold-out show today at Kirkland Performance Center. Not everyone can sell this place out. And, you know, we were talking just very briefly before that it's a different kind of landscape in 2023 than it was even in, 2018, 2019 with trying to just get people to come out to your show. But your show was sold out like a month ago. And I know this local audience just absolutely loves you. So, again, just thanks for being here. Really looking forward to the show tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be, back on this stage. And like you said, it's great to hear that people are starting to come back out for shows and supporting live music and the arts again. Because, as we both know, it's so needed. And I think that, we just hope that tonight, everyone who comes out, will just walk away smiling or feeling a little bit of joy, from the experience tonight.
Yeah, 100%. Tonight's show is a Christmas show. It's Christmas in Hawaii. You've got a 14-foot inflatable Santa that you're putting up. I don't know if we could B-roll a shot of that. Maybe I'll get a shot later. But you grew up in Hawaii, and what were the holidays like for you growing up there? I imagine a lot of music, surrounded by family and friends, but what was it like growing up there around the holidays?
Lots of family gatherings, people coming together. It's warm, which is
which is nice.
You could actually spend Christmas out on the beach you wanted.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite time of year because it's the time that everyone intentionally, puts aside time to spend with family and loved ones. And I don't know, that's just something that I always look forward to. I mean, I really should be thinking about those things all year, not just this time. But family is always a big thing, for sure. Yeah. So we're just happy to be back out, sharing our music, and hopefully that as you know, I mean, one of the great things about music and the arts is it just brings people together. It brings the community together, and that's always such a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love Christmas. I love the holidays. I grew up in big family and everything, and the nostalgia that it evokes. I was kind of reminded. The ukulele is so connected to Hawaii and its geography and its history. And, I think, you play one chord on the thing and you kind of, that's kind of what you picture, I was just curious, when you're writing a song, what's your approach to writing? Do you come up with kind of like, like a melody or a lick or something, or do you have kind of a feeling that you want to share and convey, and then that inspires you to kind of sit down and write? Or is it maybe a mix of
it's actually all those things, every song, every song that I guess I've kind of put together or whatever, there's a kind of a story that comes with it, how I went about writing it. I mean, there's a song called Missing 3 that I remember writing years ago. And while I was changing my ukulele strings, I was missing the third string. Okay. So I only had the first, second, and the fourth string. And so I just started noodling around with it, and I ended up writing the song with just the 3 strings. That's why it's called Missing 3. But every song kind of has its own story and its own, I guess, of how it, came to be. And that's the beautiful part about creativity. I think, it's just, for me, there's not a formula. It's just, we could be sitting here and something could just happen, and that might be like, oh man, that's cool. Maybe the microphone might drop, and the way it hits the table and bounces around, like that rhythm might be like, oh, that was kind of a cool, rhythmic idea. And so, put some notes to it and see what happens.
That's interesting. I love that. So it's more of a mindset of kind of looking at the world in a creative way, and being ready to kind of jump in and available when the world shows you like, hey, here's something that's interesting, and you kind of light up on that.
But it's just everything. Everything it can be part of your creative process.
Right.
And it's a wonderful thought once you kind of realize that. Right.
That's hilarious too. That you wrote a song on 3 strings. It's like four is too many strings. You know, like I don't need that 4th string. You know, speaking of that, obviously you're well known. Your highest viewed, you know, YouTube videos and things like that are your amazing, renditions of like a lot of these popular songs. While My Guitar Gently Weeps and Bohemian Rhapsody. Outlandish things that you would never, you wouldn't automatically think, oh yeah, let's play that on the ukulele. It reminds me of like, Bela Fleck does that with the banjo, as well. But
it's funny that you mentioned Bela Fleck, because as soon as you were saying that, I was thinking about Bela's classical album.
It's the same kind of thing where you. Until you hear it, you're like, what? And that's even when I tell people about you, I'm like, oh yeah, he does Bohemian Rhapsody on the ukulele. And they're like, I was telling my son that, yesterday, and he was like, what? How does he? I'm like, I just got to show you, just watch him. But what was the original, inspiration to take on, such a thing that was kind of outside the box of maybe what ukulele is traditionally like, played on? What inspired you to take that on as a creative challenge?
I just thought it would be, it's almost like a puzzle, right? It's like putting a puzzle together. And the neat thing is, like, a lot of times I can't hear what the end result is going to be, so I'll just kind of start, and like a tune like Bohemian Rhapsody, is funny because I didn't start in the beginning, but I kind of started in the middle of the song. Because there were two parts of the piece where I was like, okay, I need to make sure I can get this and figure out what key is going to work best, for the ukulele. And so one was, of course, the part where the rock part jumps in. Right?
Yeah, so I was like, how am I going to do that?
Trying to figure out different different ways to play that. And obviously I thought, that part needs to drop in the key of C, because, it goes through many key changes throughout the song. So I needed that part to be in C, because I needed the low open C string, which is the lowest note on the ukulele, to give the biggest sound. Then when you work backwards from there, if that's going to be C, then you kind of work backwards. And then the first chord is your G6 chord, right? So, because I think the original starts in D.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then the other part was the thunderbolts and lightning, finding the right voicing for that to make it, because there's so much going on. If you listen to just the thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening, like just that one phrase, there's so many things happening, and I just wanted to make sure I could get that right, because if I could arrange the entire song but not get that right, then it just wouldn't be, it just wouldn't feel good about it. So I wanted to work on the hardest part first, and then kind of work backwards from there.
It's like one of the executive director here says, he's like, you don't want to do half a backflip, it's like you want to land the, and that's what everyone's looking forward to that too. It's like you start the song and everyone's kind of thinking, if they haven't heard you do it, it's like, ooh, how's he gonna do that part though? You know what I mean? So, but obviously you pull it off, and it's so much fun to listen to. Everyone out there, if you haven't watched it yet, you have to go watch him right now. Pause this and go watch that. But
the approach of that song though, like honestly, it's really when I was arranging that, the idea was it's a collaborative effort, because it's a collaboration with the audience and their knowledge of the song already, right? So in that sense, it made it a lot easier for me, like when I would arrange it, because I realized I didn't have to get every part. I would just have to hint at a certain part.
Right.
And then the brain kind of takes over. Right. So it's really the human brain that's deciphering the piano parts from Freddie Mercury's vocals to the guitar solo and the little drum hits or whatever, right? So it's that's kind of fun when you think of a song in that way, where like I'm playing these parts, but the whole piece is only conceived in a collaborative effort with the audience member. Right. So that
is interesting.
So that's kind of an interesting way to kind of approach it.
That's such an audience participation song anyway. It's like anytime that song comes on anywhere, everybody loves it. So I mean, I love that. I love that little detail there. That's beautiful. Your latest album, you released an album this year called Grateful, and it's got a bunch of Hawaiian legends on it, and friends of yours and things like that. You have done, with everything you've done over the years, collaborating with every day, just fill in the name. You've collaborated with all kinds of people. Even on the previous album was an album of collaborations. With all kinds of people. Why was it important for you to do this kind of album, and what inspired you to kind of go back to your roots, so to speak, and make this record? And what was the inspiration behind that?
Well, recently I've been just enjoying the collaborative process. I mean, maybe it was a result of the pandemic or something, but just collaborating with other artists was I don't know, it's just been so inspiring for me. And like you said, the album before this was a collaboration. Well, it was a duets record basically, with a lot of my favorite singers and things like that, and it was called Jake and Friends. So after I did that record, then I was like, man, this is so cool. But I thought, man, it would be really neat to do something where I really went back to the music I was first exposed to as a kid born and raised in Hawaii. And that's when I started thinking about all my mentors and teachers and the musicians who inspired me. I mean, I remember being a kid and going to their concerts, right, and sitting in the front row and watching them play. And those were people like, Henry Kapono, Brother Nolan, Kavika Kahiapo, John Cruz, and so I started putting like a wish list together. And I tell you, I was if not as nervous, even more nervous asking some of them, right, than some of the other ones that I had on my previous
closer
record.
to home kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but they're all Hawaii-based musicians, and this one felt very personal because it's really the music and the voices and the sound that was my roots. That started as my foundation. So it's a very special record. I mean, the opening track on there is with Henry Kapono. He sings one of his iconic songs, Sailing. And I never would have had the courage to ask him to be on this record if there wasn't, if this didn't happen. But if there was an incident where I was flying home from Hawaii Island, and I walked on the plane and I looked at my seat. And I looked up and I noticed that Uncle Henry Kapono was sitting on the window seat, and I was going to be sitting in the aisle. I was like, oh my goodness, wow. So I walked up to him and I said nervously, I was like, Uncle Henry, is it okay if I sit next to you? And he looks at me and he goes, oh, well, is that your seat? So I said, yeah, that's my seat. So he said, well, you better sit there then. But it was the first time that I got to sit with him and really have a conversation with him. I mean, we've said hi and bye together, to each other before, but I sat next to him and I basically thanked him, for all his inspiration, and I've just been such a fan. But he shared with me like how he got into music and all these stories, and it was such a wonderful plane ride home. It made the plane ride too short,
of course,
But when we landed, he asked me, hey, if there's anything you're working on that you want me to be a part of, let me know. So I was working on this collaborations record, and I told him about it, and he said, oh yeah, give me a call, would love to be on it. And that's how that came about. But had we not been on the same flight, I don't know if I would have had the courage to ask him.
That's so cool. Playing here, actually, Henry Kapono in next year, actually, in March or something like that. Yeah. So I recognized that name on there. I was like, oh my God. Lastly, we just started this recording studio. We have an educational program. We have some ukulele students over there who are actually all coming to the show tonight. And you always seem to be able to have the spirit and kind of the attitude of a student, even at this stage, I feel like, of your life. And you even hearing you talk about, these other artists who you've played with, there's such a respect there, and like, I just want to learn from these people. How are you able to, sort of maintain that mindset, even when, others might look at you and go, wow, you've mastered this instrument. You're at such a high level, but you have this kind of attitude of like, wow, I still want to learn. And I'm just curious, how you're able to maintain that balance.
I don't know. I mean, I always feel like there's just so much more to learn, right? And I love the mindset of just being like a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
because there's always more out there. I think, I don't know, sometimes I think, because, we all have weaknesses. I mean, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are, and, and either you work on your weaknesses or you just get better at hiding them, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
but both, yeah.
But I think that, I don't know, for me, I love that, I'm always going to respect my elders and the artists who came before me, the ukulele players, I mean, from like Eddie Kamai to Otosan to Roy Sakuma, Israel Kumaka Vivole, like the list goes on and on and on, but those players who paved the way for us. And it really brings it back to the spirit and the roots of this new record. It's called Grateful, but the idea came from a Japanese word that means I am what I am because of you, and the word is okage-sama de. And the idea is I am what I am because of you, like all the generations that came before us that made sacrifices, so that we could have a better life. I mean, I'm a 5th generation Japanese American, and so I think back at my great-great-grandparents and the sacrifices that they made so that the next generation could have a better life. Right. And then the sacrifices my great-grandmother made and my grandmother made and my parents made for us, I think I just apply that, to all the musicians, right, who came before us, and all these players that are on this record, they helped to guide me and mentor me and made me the musician that I am today.
Right.
So when I think in that, when I think about it in that way, I don't know. It's just it just never ends. You brought up the name Bela Fleck earlier, and I toured with them, years ago, and when I went out on the road with them, when I think of Bela, who's at musically at the top. I mean, he still, every chance he had his banjo in his hand and was constantly practicing, working on something.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah,
And I mean, that just goes to show, like, you can always push yourself, to be better.
Right.
And I think in everything that you do, you can apply that.
I think it shows you kind of answered both my questions with that, but I think it shows a real joy too, and still a pleasure, that you get from your instrument and from your art, that you're still interested in it, after all these years. And I think, on the flip side, sometimes you find people who've been doing it a long time. It's like, actually, it's sort of the last thing they want to do. They don't want to play. And obviously we all go through periods of like being inspired or not, and things like that. But I think I just love that, I want to say. And that's an inspiring thing to me to see, someone who's like still lit up about it. You know what I mean? And that shows me that there's something there, in the music that's just like universal to all of us, that universal experience of like joy that we all get from playing music together,
And the joy, I think, for me anyway, it's in the process, right?
Right.
It's not the end result, right?
Right.
It's in the process. So the more that you can stay in that process, of being creative and discovering, and which is what learning is all about, right?
Right.
That's for me, that's the most fulfilling part.
Right. Love that. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Oh, thank you.
Everybody out there, go to Jake's website at jakeshimabukuro.com for tour dates and things like that. Starting off a big. I think is this your first date on
for the holiday tour?
For the holiday tour, this is your first date.
It's a little early.
Yeah,
but it's okay.
We love it. We got like 14 boxes of merch delivered, to the office there. We're like, wow, this is the first show on the tour. Got it, or whatever. So, really looking forward to the show tonight. Thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
Aloha.
Thanks for joining us for KPC Underground. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider supporting KPC at kpcenter.org/donate. Your generosity helps us keep this and other programs going at Kirkland Performance Center. Be sure to check out our website for the latest events coming up. And hey, we'd also love to hear from you. Please rate our podcast, like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. And if you have a specific question or an idea for a show, email us at podcast@kpcenter.org. Thanks for listening.